Hey guys, happy Thanksgiving. I just got back from picking up some stuff I won at an auction. A little background before we delve into this stuff. First off, any of you having trouble finding good stuff or are tired of having to pay high prices on eBay, not finding much on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace seems to be really popular these days. You really have to go to auctions to get the great deals. Yeah, you might have to drive a bit. Yeah, you may have to wait a bit. Pay buyer's premium, sales tax maybe, and then of course go and pick up the stuff. But the biggest issue I've had with this is typically, especially with smaller items, you have to buy lots. And you have to take everything in the lot, whether you want it or not. All right, so flashback 10 years ago or so when I got my Dumont Clifton at an auction. It came with two other TVs. One of them was a National, and at the time I didn't think much of it. I figured, well, I really wanted the Dumont, so if it comes with it, fine, I'll take it. But I came to appreciate it, and I restored it to the best of my abilities. It was in pretty rough shape, but the one problem I haven't been able to solve, or the one thing I couldn't address, was the knobs. It was missing almost all of its knobs. They're ridiculously hard to find because I really only used them in this TV and an antenna booster they made. Well, I got a tip about a local auction, and in particular another National TV with a full set of knobs and overall in much better condition than the other example I have. So I bid on it. Not that I need any more stuff, but it's only a few miles from where I live and reasonable price. There was at least one other bidder. So be it. I ended up winning it. TVs. All right, so what are we looking at? It is a 7-inch television, electrostatic, using the good old 7JP4 from the late 40s, 48, 49. And as the guy who picked this out handed it to me, he said, "Man, is this thing heavy." Yeah, it is. For a 7-inch TV, which are typically low-cost, low-end TVs, usually don't have a power transformer, usually don't weigh much. This sucker is heavy. They did make two variations, one with and one without a power transformer. I suspect this is with, as I believe is my other wooden one. I think it's a model TV-7. Something like that. There's also a metal cabinet version, which I did get from a buddy of mine, but it's really rough, and that is the series string version. It's rusty, it's missing all its tubes, it's missing a lot of knobs, so I haven't really done anything with that yet. But overall, so I just got home. I haven't really looked at this much yet. There is some condition issue on the cabinet, but there is on my other one, too. On my other one, the top had been mashed down, and it had been held in place with a nail, and it was a mess. This original finish overall, it's pretty nice shape. The original decals are really nice. Typically you get some wear around here, so be it, it's old, but the one bad thing, as you typically get with old lacquer finishes, is you get alligatoring, and then you get moisture underneath, and then it starts getting cloudy. So we can see that through here. And then maybe this is part of the decal, too, with the digits on there. I don't know. This is kind of raised, and I can feel kind of an edge here, so I think that is the decal starting to come off. Usually they clear coat over the decal, but this almost feels like the decal's on top of the lacquer. Should be crazy. But hey, knobs. 3D print, yeah, well, maybe someday. The 3D printed knobs I've seen are not there yet, plus these have metal inserts. So nice to have. It is a strange design. So National, you may know from their ham radios. They're much more successful with making moderately priced ham radios. I think I can't remember the model number. Something S38 or something like that. A very popular, low-cost ham type receiver, a shortwave receiver. So when it came to making TVs, they kind of did their own thing and used, I think, some of their expertise from making higher quality receivers. By that I mean, they didn't make all American 5s. They made higher quality receivers that ham operators would use for shortwave. Big boxy wooden cabinet. So I'll take a closer look at that in a bit. But what I wanted to talk about right now was when I had to get two other things with the TV. Didn't particularly want them, but they're here. And I did do a little research already on them. This is a radio made by LaSalle, who I think were out of New York. Lesser known brand. I think the radios might have been made by somebody else and they were rebranded. Odd little radio. The little baby dial in the middle. Looks like it does AM and I think it only does AM. I've noticed there was a scale on both sides, but I think one is just in meters and one is the frequency. Jupiter, what the heck are you doing? Oh, you little jerk. Actually, I wonder if he did that or if a mouse was in here or something. No, I shouldn't leave a bag of dog food lying around in the garage. Somebody's bound to get into it sooner or later. Man, just like little kids, you can't turn your back for a minute. Where were we? Yes. So it's a tombstone radio, but it's super small. It's like a little baby tombstone radio, and it doesn't weigh much. So I kind of like it. I doubt it's worth much, if anything. And it looks fairly budget inside from what I can see. It's all here though. The back is there, the knobs. The address is from Rockford, Illinois. So somehow it made its way over here at some point. To the Midwest area, that is. Let's see, it looks like we have 5 tubes. There's a coil conspicuously just sitting out in the open. I'm sure it's a fairly modest design. I can see 4 tubes. Maybe there's a 5th hidden in there somewhere for a rectifier, but it might be just a 4-tube radio. Anyways, that'll be a fun little restoration project. And then there's this, which is even lower end than that, and it's a Meck. I seem to be attracting Meck stuff lately. And boy, this similar to the Meck TV I got, this is very much a budget set. If anything, this is even cheaper, more cheaply made than the TV I worked on a while ago. Very similar looking label, same typeface and stuff as I remember from that TV label. Made in Plymouth, Indiana. So this is a radio and a record player. All-American 5 type radio with all octal tubes. Classic lineup of tubes there. But it hardly weighs anything. It's made out of really thin plywood, and the platter can't have much weight to it at all. It's just so flimsy. It's plywood. Yeah, as you can see, there's 3 layers of wood in the plywood. Amazingly, it survived this long with this curved wood without cracking or shattering or anything. And the flocking on the platter is actually really nice. 78 RPM phonograph. Let's see how to get the tone arm up. Let's do that. It does have a needle. I have a handful of 78 RPM radios. I guess this goes in from the side. Like so. It's probably just on off. Well, typically there's just a motor right underneath the platter going right to the AC line. There's just an on-off switch, and then there'll be a radio / phono mode switch. So you just turn this on, a record starts spinning, and you plop the needle down on it, and that's that. If you're lucky, when it gets to the end, it retracts, but I suspect I'll just have to lift it up and move it over. But I don't have any functioning vintage record players in my collection. I think I only have one combo TV with a built-in record player, and that's it. It's really not my thing. So I do have a few 78s so we can play around with it. The AM radio dial face. Plastic. I thought it yellowed. Maybe it has a little bit, but the actual, there's gold foil on the dial scale. The Meck Trailblazer. Alrighty. Both of these could benefit from a little refinishing. Right. Definitely have some flakes. And it's not that bad looking. It has some veneer. It's got some style to it. And it looks like they may have sprayed on some toner to put kind of a darker edge around the top. Or maybe that's just how the underlying wood is. Hard to say. Definitely did a couple different colors on this. They used darker toner here than here. And same on this edge. That may or may not be two different toners. It could be the underlying wood. Grill cloth looks familiar. I think GE or RCA might have used the same grill cloth. This does have a tear. If I really wanted to go all the way on this, I'd probably want to replace that. Let's see, yeah, the dial does work. Yeah, so does this one. So those would both be a couple fun, quick, I hope, projects to go through. Here's a look at the back. Bit of a budget design. It's weird. The cabinet is definitely cheaply made, but the actual receiver, the actual set is quite well made. That you can even see just peeking in the back. Dual fuse holder. Nice large chassis. So I'll grab a screwdriver and let's take this back off for a closer look inside. Boy, this is in really, really nice condition inside. I wouldn't be surprised if this has never been serviced. Every label is here and in really nice condition. I will take photographs of all of these. So perhaps I can make reproductions for my other set. And as I say, for what you consider to be a budget set, this has some nice features. For example, there's a switch here for line voltage. If you're between 105 and 115, go down there. 115 to 130, go up there. Dual fuses, although didn't notice this when they had the back on. Somebody didn't want to fork out the money for fuses that I presume burned out, so they wrapped them in aluminum foil and shoved them back into the holder. All right. Let's see, are the controls frozen? Of course they are. Yeah, I recall that from some other electrostatic stuff I've worked on. So they use plastic shafts on the three controls for the go to the high voltage circuitry for the horizontal and vertical centering and focus. And over time, the plastic tends to swell a little bit, and it's very common for these to be frozen. So I'll deal with that, assuming we want to get this set working. It has dual speakers. Sometimes they have two grills on these sets, and one of them doesn't have anything behind it. But no, on these sets, yeah, they really do have two speakers. There's also a variation of the metal cabinet version. On one side there is a meter, a field strength meter, and there are handles on the side of the TV, and the idea is you would take it with you on home installations of a high-end set, and you would use the National with the field strength meter to adjust the antenna or decide where to put their new TV to get the best reception. Original power cord is toast. I was curious with all the nicer things that there is no strain relief or anything on the power cord, it just goes through a hole. This was rattling around inside. It's a piece of rubber foam that's gone rock hard. It was probably supporting maybe the CRT up front. So, I don't know. The tubes, from what I can see, they're all RCA branded. I don't know what this would originally have come with. Well, I was thinking it has a power transformer because of the weight. But if it does, I don't recall where it would be. It would have to be right in front of this high voltage box. I'm not seeing it. Or maybe it's underneath the chassis. So I'm trying to reach around in here. Yeah, no, there's just tubes and capacitors in front of this high voltage box. There's no transformer. I also, yeah, I know I'm rambling. I think there might have just been, I don't think there was ever a full power transformer version. I think the higher end flavor of this had just a filament transformer or just a B+ transformer. But it wasn't, the entire set didn't run off the transformer. Selenium rectifier back there. Actually, I know how I can tell if I can reach back here, pull out a tube. If it's the series strung version, there'll be 12 SN7s or something like that, or there'll be higher voltage tubes. If it's the one driven by filament transformer, there will be 6-volt tubes. Of course, the one tube I pull out doesn't have a label on it. Oh no, there it is. 12SN7. Huh. This might be the series strung version. Maybe it's just that heavy. Well, it's pretty thick steel on the chassis. Well, we will have to get this inside and take a closer look. Alrighty, all the knobs and feet have been removed, so it's ready to come out. Notice there is no shield on the CRT. The cabinet is a bit heavy, but definitely the bulk of the weight is from the chassis, just the chassis metal, I think. It's dusty, that's for sure. Nice use of ceramic sockets for the deflection tubes. Will prevent any arcing. So just noticing on the two speakers, they are oriented. Well, they're not the same. Actually, it has an output transformer mounted on it, but otherwise the speakers are still not the same. Kind of odd. Alright, big reveal underneath. Okay, so you can see right away this looks the same as the other wood version I have in regard to these two transformers. Otherwise, that jumps out at me right away as possibly a replacement, but the rest looks all original. And yes, there is a trimmer cap down there. So the comment I got about, is this the same circuit as the Meck? No, but there are definite similarities. The power supply is different. The deflection board is a bit different. For example, like as I mentioned, the ceramic caps here and the dividers I think are a little bit different. But this looks similar. The deflection circuit and the trimmer cap on the horizontal output tube. The Meck had those as well. Was there any connection between the companies that actually produced these? I don't know. See, when you get to these smaller companies, a lot of them didn't actually make the stuff themselves. They get it from Warwick or Colonial, or there were small fabrication companies that didn't make stuff for themselves. They only made it to rebrand for other companies. So maybe ultimately there was one company that made a number of these chassis, but there are some definitely unique things that just appear in the Nationals, as far as I know. Obviously I haven't seen every model of every set ever, every brand ever made. But yeah, that is very encouraging. It's very, very clean underneath. I'll go free in for a little bit of a closer look. Oh, that was resistor is kind of interesting. It's a power wire wound resistor, but it's open on one side. Typically you see that when there's a third leg, an adjustable slider here. Maybe this had one originally, or it was an option and they didn't need it in the set, so they didn't include it. I don't know. So that guy. It's hard to say. Certainly it's the only red plastic encased capacitor in the set. But it does have the same type of black sleeving that the others do. Of course, that could have been added on later. It's curious as this almost feels like recent heat shrink tubing. But these parts do look very vintagey, so it's probably not. Nice shielded cabling here. And there's those metallized paper capacitors. But not all the circuits have it. So there's one there, but these are all paper. Aerovox. There's only 3 or 4 of these, so maybe they were used in more sensitive circuits. Oh, they're also larger values. 1 microfarad, which is big for a paper cap, and 0.25 and 0.25, whereas these are 0.05. So maybe that was simply a matter of that's what they could source for the larger values. That's a 0.05, a 0.01. Okay. So that's a possibility. At first I thought maybe these were higher qualities and more sensitive circuits, but now maybe it's just because they needed a larger value capacitor and that's what they could get. Alrighty, this will definitely go on the back burner, but I'm very happy to have it. It's very nice to have a reference set that's essentially untouched. Sometimes I think maybe I should just leave it. And I know that's definitely what some collectors do. They want the sets to stay original. They don't care if they ever work or not. To each his own. I will clean it a bit though while I've got it out. Definitely a bit filthy on the CRT face. I guess one last thing we can do is see if the picture tube is any good. I will get to the 2 radios sooner than later though, because those look like fun little one evening projects. Brought those down. Now when I look at this Meck, that might be maple. That actually, for a low end set, cheaply made, that's some pretty wood on there. Too bad I got gouged up. Oh yeah, I forgot. Testing these is not quite so simple as one might think, because you can't take the base off. The base is affixed to the chassis. You need to loosen up this retention band in the front and move it out that way. I just loosened up that band and the whole thing slid right out the front. It's an RCA. I've got it hooked up to my CR70. Looks like we have filament glue, I think. Ooh. Well, that's no good. At least the G1 short has a possibility of being removed. No, it looks like I had my G1 and K connections reversed. Have I mentioned I hate these clips? I hate these clips. Should make myself a custom adapter, but don't have all the time in the world to do everything. Alright. This seems to be working as expected now. Alright, now the question is, if I can move this without the clips falling off, is there glow? Yes, there is a glow. Small splotch on the face of the CRT, so that's a decent indication. It can produce some sort of image, so at least it has some life left. Alright, well, while I've got it out, I'm going to clean off the filthy CRT, maybe vacuum off the chassis a little bit, and slide it back together. Once again, nicotine is a fantastic preservative. That is one super clean chassis underneath all that dirt. It's a whole lot of dust on the metal and nicotine glaze on the glass. A little bit of brushing, a little bit of vacuuming, a little bit of Windex, and that is one really sweet chassis. Well, that's going to be it for now. I hope you enjoyed this look, an initial triage of a National TV-7W from 1949. A Meck 78 RPM phonograph and AM radio from early 40s, mid 40s, and a LaSalle budget tombstone radio from the 30s.